Hey everyone, welcome to Figuring Out Fabric, where I ask dumb questions and you get smart answers. Um, Els Van Vessem is joining me. Now their house is a bit of a mess, so they're just gonna be kind of a mysterious aura during this conversation, but I assume most of you are listening while you're cleaning the house or commuting, so you won't be able to tell. But anyone, unfortunately, on YouTube will just see my beautiful face and my terraforming Mars board game photo back there. And eventually, I'll get my grandma wallpaper updated. But so Els has been working with SQL Server for a very long time. I met them, I want to say at SQL Bits. They're really involved with the community and they work for their local government. Els, you want to talk a little about your experience, both in general and then with Fabric?
Yeah, sure. So I indeed work for like a Dutch governmental
Mhm.
organization as a data engineer, and I've been working with data for about 5 to 7 years, I'd say. I always find it
Okay.
hard to completely pinpoint it down. Um, I have a background in psychology, but I couldn't find work, so I went into IT.
So was that a lot of people in the data space are accidental. Was that an accidental thing for you, or was that an intentional pivot?
The movement towards like IT, I did like help desk and support, and I did some
Okay.
project management. That was sort of more accidental. And then through project management, where I like making the reports better than the project managing, then I went into like the BI side of things.
Oh, interesting.
What?
Okay.
Yeah. And I did lots of learning on the job, did lots of like online courses, certifications, stuff like that.
Yeah. So for some context, so I had well, I don't want to say similar background. So I got a bachelor's degree. So I got a 4-year degree.
Hmm.
My first job was a Bayer Material Science. I was not well equipped to work in BI. I didn't understand the business, and I got fired within 8 months, which was probably for the best. But my second job, um, it was a local fire protection company that also owned a small IT company. We're talking like 150 employees
Hmm.
combined, I forget. It wasn't big. And I got interviewed, and I could spell SQL, so suddenly I was their SQL DBA, and I was their SSRS report monkey. And the first week I was Googling what a SQL view was because I had had only one database course in college on
Yeah.
MySQL. And so I didn't know what a view was because they never taught us. I don't know if it was a feature back in 2007, 2008. And I didn't know what a store procedure was at all. I knew what functions were from C sharp or
Mm,
Java.
yeah.
So I can relate to the oh crap, just learning on the job and just trying to pull yourself up.
Well, I worked for a very good company. So they did lots of internal courses, and that's also how I got to work with Power BI. I think if I look back at the timeline, they were
Ugh.
relatively early adopters. They also were Microsoft partners and everything, I think, if I remember correctly. So we had lots of teachers who were like official Microsoft teachers as well. So they taught like the Power BI stuff.
Yeah.
And that really, really helped, with everything, and, just learning a lot, like, with other people helped a lot as well. But I wanted to get out of the more commercial business, which is why I worked for a hospital, and now I work for the government.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm basically a data engineer, usually within a small team, which basically means I do everything, which means I do
Yeah.
a lot more reporting than I would like to do. I prefer to do, like, the more ETL-y, back-endy kindy thingies.
That's an interesting career path because, in some ways, I feel like you're, Microsoft's ideal user of Fabric. Um, I think I mean, it sounds like your progression to data engineering was intentional, but I know I'm being dragged kicking and screaming
Oh,
personally.
yeah.
Um, I have no interest in data engineering whatsoever, but I did a blog post doing some benchmarking and I finally had to learn how to use
Mm,
a data pipeline. And personally, I think there's way too many checkboxes and I don't know what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm gonna have to start learning Spark notebooks
mm,
eventually. And so like my experience comes originally SQL Server. I did a little bit of
Mhm.
SSIS, so I know some of the draggy droppy for the ETL.
I've done
But
quite some SSES now
yeah,
because
yeah.
I work for like hospitals and government. We have old tech. That's
Yes, yes.
basically the thing. So I've done a lot of SSIS. I've done a lot of SSRS reporting services as well.
Yes.
So yeah, it's what I'm used to.
That is the one of the I feel bad for anyone in any of those industries where you're kind of a revision behind, because Microsoft, I understand their business and its marketing, but they have a really bad habit of pretending that that old tech doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
It's not SSRS, it's Power BI report server. It's still SSRS. Sorry, no, it's not SSRS, it's paginated reports. It's still SSRS. Like, they couldn't kill off the tech as much as they wanted to, because
Yeah.
the way I describe it, you're never going to create and send an invoice from Power BI, but I've done it from SSRS.
Same.
Same with
Well, not me,
timesheets,
but
work orders. Yeah, like,
I made it for
o
other people.
operational reporting is what actually runs the business, and you can't analyze things until you can keep the trains running. Um
I'm nodding vigorously just at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
people.
yeah, right. We shoulda, like, just got you, like, one of those, like, VTuber, like, animated avatars,
Oh, that would
then,
have been so cool.
it'd be the best
Yeah.
of both worlds.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So why don't you I mean, that I'm really excited to hear your perspective, because I think you're kind of I mean, I'm inferring, but I think you're dealing with this, like, push and pull kind of, like I don't know, have you ever, like, played with a cat and they grab your hand with their claws and then they kick away? I feel
Well,
like that's probably I feel like that's you're in that situation where the data engineering part, this is all very exciting. This is the stuff you wanna be doing. But then the fact that you work for the government, that you're supporting technologies that are maybe on-prem or revision behind
very
is
much,
kind of
yes.
that push kinda thing. So, do you wanna talk a little bit about your experience so far with Fabric, or what you've looked into, or any of that kinda stuff?
When I first heard about Fabric, I got some like I know many people in the community just as you do because go to
Yeah.
conferences, meet
It's
people. It's a
it's a
very good idea.
small it's a small world once you start, like, you s
Yeah,
they're basically my coworkers. Like, I have to explain to people I work for myself and I work from home. So the office Christmas party is past Summit and SQL bits for me.
I feel you. I sometimes almost call some folk like you. I call them my coworkers, but you're not my coworker. But it
Yeah.
sometimes feels like that because I know if I have an issue, I have several people I can call or send a
Yeah.
message to, which is lovely because I have some data coworkers. But we all have like different expertises, and sometimes you need something that someone knows. That's a
Yeah.
complicated sentence.
Well,
But
oh, sorry,
where I want to go is
good.
because of that, I heard you should look, and I think it was not even Pass, but it was Ignite, where
Mm.
they announced Fabric about 2 years ago.
I feel like it was in the spring of 2023 is what I wanna
Something like
say.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched the keynote
Mm.
where they did that, and I was so excited.
Right.
Because it really seemed like such a cool thing, and I knew that at the job I was at, we might not be able to leverage that, we might not be able to
Right.
use it, but when I started at my government job, which was, like, right around that time, a bit later,
Yeah.
I did tell my manager, like, "Hey, this is a cool new thing which might be useful for us. Shall we look
Yep.
into this?" That, of course, didn't immediately happen because I also had to learn the stuff they had there and, having a new job, and I also moved house in that year.
Oh,
I didn't have that much time to dive
yeah,
into
yeah, I've
new
been
tech.
there before. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was so excited. And now we are slowly looking to moving towards the cloud for certain things we do,
Okay.
also infrastructure-wise, and that also means that Fabric was back on the table.
Mm.
Um
Yeah.
But basically, do we want Fabric? Do we want Databricks? Do we want something else, like use the other tools
Snowflake.
that are also still available?
Yeah.
And that is the question where we're at now. Like, we're gonna do some proof of concepts, and we're gonna see what works best for us. Our loads are not that heavy, but we do have to do some semi-complicated stuff with XMLs. Um,
Mm.
very big XMLs. And and we also have a lot of data that is sort of more, I want to say dangerous. That's not the right term. More need more safekeeping,
Mm,
needs to be more
sure.
secure, which might even legally not be allowed to be in the cloud. So we need a more hybrid solution anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got well, first you have data sovereignty kind of issues.
Yes.
I mean, because I don't know, do you have an Azure data center in the Netherlands? I doubt it, but
No, it's either Ireland or Germany.
okay. Yeah, I mean, the joys of being a imperial mega power here in the United States is, I don't care if my data's in, West Virginia. It's a 6-hour drive and it's still in the same country, but I'm sure in Europe, for government, that's a
Yeah,
bigger deal. Um,
that too. Yes.
but even then, like you said, a lot of this stuff is confidential.
True.
There's been plenty of hacks from many governments, including the US, where it's like, I think there was a hack of Veterans Affairs. I could be
Oh
wrong,
wow.
but,
Yeah.
just imagine all of these medical records of your soldiers now being out there that could be used for impersonation,
Yeah.
blackmail, whatever. So you have to be way more cautious than you might with, a software as a service startup for, like,
Exactly.
Uber for
Yeah.
cats, you know?
We had a hack on our police force
Oh, no, yeah,
that all
sure.
the much of the exchange data was well, leaked is not the right word, but
Yeah,
yeah.
exfiltrated
So
in some sort of way. Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah.
that's really fucking scary for those people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe it. So you
Um
said you said right now you're very much in the exploratory phase of
Very
can
much.
can
Yes.
Fabric work for us, and the Microsoft marketing isn't applicable because, I think, someone over at Microsoft would love it if everybody put all of their data in one lake. It's the one
Mhm.
lake to rule them all and darkness bind them kind of thing. And
Yeah.
certainly there's a lot of mirroring solutions that they've provided because they understand it's not an option. So Databricks, you have
Yeah.
metadata level mirroring. SQL,
Yeah.
Azure SQL, you've got mirroring. They're working on other types. But for you, that's the thing is like you're never going to be able to go all in. So
Yes, exactly.
what does like one foot in each world look like if it's not the golden path Microsoft would like you to take?
Yeah, and that's exactly what's hard. And I
Mm,
think that also, like, one of the things I find really difficult is, and it's very silly, but it's the terminology. If I want to know something about Synapse, do I want to know something about Fabric Synapse? Do I want to know something about Synapse? Like, all
yeah,
those terms are conflated, which makes Googling very hard, especially
right.
if you're new. So I don't immediately see what is what. And that makes things very difficult sometimes.
Well, and I'm gonna show my American ignorance here, right? But from what I recall, Dutch is a Germanic language. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there's a lot of languages around there, Germanic languages, in
Hmm.
Europe, where some of the words sound similar, but they're not quite the same, right? So someone might be able to speak German. You're like, that sounds similar, and I feel like that's the way it is
Danish
with a
sounds
lot of this stuff.
similar, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, 'Cause I run into this with Spanish and Portuguese, so more on
Mm,
the Romance language side, but, like, I'm Duolingo fluent in Spanish, we'll say, and if someone writes something in Portuguese, if I squint my eyes real hard, I can half understand what's written, and I think
yeah.
it does feel that way because it's not just a name thing, as frustrating as that may be, but it's a surface area thing as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll give you a simple example. Trying to understand the T-SQL surface area inside of Fabric is a nightmare. And I
Mm,
don't blame Microsoft. They've taken on a pretty big challenge, but, they're adding SQL DBs in public preview right now.
mhm,
They're built on Azure SQL, but it's not the same. They have a giant table in the docs of, okay, you get these extended events, but not everything else. Or you
mm.
could get these data types, but not everything else, or whatever. And then you look at like the data warehouse T-SQL surface area. It's not anywhere near the same because it's a completely different engine on the back end. And so I mentioned this in a different episode that's not out as of this time recording, but will be when this comes out, where, um, you know, try to migrate from on-prem to data warehouse in Fabric, turns out there's no such thing as indexes, there's no such thing as file groups, there's no money type, which is good, it's supposed to be deprecated, but there's no nchar or nvarchar, and
Hmm.
there's no merge statements, all this stuff. And so it's not just the names are similar, but the feature set is is never gonna have parity in most
Yeah.
cases.
And this is exactly because you need to know what you're able to do, and
Yeah.
that makes it very difficult. And apparently, there's also another thing that's also called Fabric in the Microsoft ecosystem, which is way older. And I'm like, "Mm, that just makes life so difficult."
My personal opinion is no product should ever be named cloud, mesh, or fabric because by definition it implies an ill-defined object, in my
Yeah,
personal opinion. Like the whole reason we have cloud is a bunch of network engineers for a decade, whenever they had to draw the internet part, just went, there's something there.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
we decided we're gonna define it based on that. It's like, what in the world?
yeah, yeah. No, that I'm very much there, and it makes it a lot harder. Like I said, it makes it
Yeah.
harder to find things. And maybe I'm wrong here,
Hmm.
but I have a coworker, and he prefers to do everything in code,
Yes,
which
yes.
is a very good preference, and I'm all for it. And infrastructure as code is the way to go. Uh, but that's sometimes also harder in Fabric,
It's much harder. I mean,
which
so
also
the
means that
this
it's harder to get him on board, and he's my closest coworker, so it's sort of important to get him on board.
the the from everything that I've seen and understand, the CI/CD story is not there yet.
Yeah.
So I can, for one, um, a lot of the things are still in preview.
Hmm.
Um, we've got an episode recorded recently with Erin Dempster, and she talked about how it can be challenging to coordinate some of these different kinds of pieces. But the other thing is when it comes to source control and CI/CD, Fabric is built on a really poor foundation, which is Power BI.
Hmm.
Because for, I mean, and you know this, but for a good, I don't know, 5 or 6 years out of the past decade, Power BI's literal source control story was, well, it's a zip file, so put it in OneDrive. Like,
Ah,
I
yeah,
remember like 2017, 2018 going to Pass Summit and trying to ask Microsoft employees, like, what do I do with this stuff? And the official guidance, maybe not official as in the docs, but the guidance from the employees was put in OneDrive because
exactly.
the PBIX file format is a zip file. You don't put zip files in source control ever because the tiniest change cascades to all these changes. And I get why they did it. Microsoft 2-week agile sprinted their way to a world-class product. And so they took the move fast and break things approach, which means you don't produce a file format that's documented and supported. You produce one that you can change without repercussions. And so that's what they did. But then, 8 years later, they're like, oh, if we want this to be enterprise ready, we actually need source control. And so now we finally have file formats, the PIBP, so project and PIBR report that are still in public preview. And
They have
yeah,
been for a while, haven't they?
I think so. Yeah,
Since
I
the
haven't been
beginning.
following closely.
Yeah.
I've had to learn more about it in last December. But you work in government. There are innumerable organizations that are lower C conservative in terms of their technology. And if it's not GA, it's not real.
GA?
Oh,
That might be
generally available. That's the term
oh,
for out
yeah,
of preview.
sorry. Yeah.
No, 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 no. Yeah, I should probably avoid initialisms, but you get the point.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
have, and we also have this thing that we should have some CI/CD, or well, at least some version control, because, you have, like, the Open Information Act as well, right? Something like
sure.
that.
It's
Here in the Netherlands.
called FOIA. It's, like
Yeah,
Freedom of Information Act in the United States.
exactly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, we have something similar, and that
Mhm.
means that, for, like, the bigger things in life, or the bigger things in work, uh people are allowed to request information about that, and sometimes that also
Oh,
includes earlier
sure.
versions.
So
So that's also a thing that this is something we have one whole department, well, a whole department, like a team that's
Yeah.
focused on basically just this, on how we structure and how we save our information.
Right. You have I mean, again, I'm an ignorant American, so I don't know how big the Netherlands is, but, you've got 10 million customers that could come knocking at any point with a data request. Like, it's hard enough when you're servicing
18
internal.
million, good yes.
18 million. Close enough. I was within an order of magnitude. I
True.
think we have more people in Pennsylvania, I'll have you know. I think we're at 21 million. Um, but yeah, so, it's hard enough to service, say, 100 employees that want their reports. But the fact that you have 18 million people that could all at any point be like, "I need a CSV file of what you have on me," or whatever,
Exactly.
it's rough. And
Yeah.
you have to be so much more thoughtful about your data architecture, and that's part of the problem with Fabric, because it was built on Power BI, which was built on self-service and kind of shadow IT, viral growth kind of stuff where we'll get one department using Power BI and working workspaces and it'll grow like a little virus, right? And I love Power BI. It's great. But self-service viral growth, organic growth is fine whenever it's the faucet at the end of the plumbing. I
Yeah.
don't I don't know if I want everybody making their own plumbing. Like that's literally how we got black mold in my house. I
Oh,
kid you
no.
not. Yeah, yeah. So I mean it's fine now, but the like 2 years into working for myself, we had flooding in our basement. Um, and it happens. It's very wet around here sometimes. And so we hired someone to install a French drain. And so they started tearing up the drywall and they said, you've got a bigger problem. And so they found black mold. And one of the things that's really frustrating is the previous owner just put up the drywall themselves and they never sealed the brickwork. They never did any work to say, "Oh, well, what if water tries to come in? We're gonna spray the walls with something." And that's my worry with Fabric is we're like, it's fine if you install your own faucet, right? We've all changed the shower head a time or two. That's
Yeah.
the risk of that is minimal. If you're installing your own pipes, you might install lead pipes because you don't know what you're doing, and now you have real consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the governance part and the admin part also gets very, very difficult that way.
Yeah.
How do you know the report is still, like, showing the correct stuff?
Right. Well, and I don't know how it is per se in government, but my experience with regulated industries is that can be something you can get sued over. If you're a publicly traded company, if you're a medical company,
Mhm.
you're an insurance company, anything where there's heavy regulation, if you get it wrong, it's not just, "Oh, hey, we need to fix that." It's you made a disclaimer to the Securities, Exchange Commission in the United States, and now you're in trouble.
That's a bit less with my specific corner of
Sure.
work, but
Yeah, yeah,
yes, it's
yeah.
it's definitely a thing, you have to, like, keep in mind and take into account.
So so we've got, I don't know, 7 or 8 more minutes, and I know we've had a good conversation, but do you wanna talk a little bit about we talked about a lot of these challenges and
Mhm.
where you're kind of at. What has been your kind of feeling or assessment so far or experience so far with trying to do that exploratory analysis about fabric and if it fits?
Yeah, I think, what I like a lot is that everything is in one package, and
Right.
that you don't have the issue of having to connect all the different tools to each other. Because that's a thing, right? That we have to do now, and even though we all use only, like, Microsoft SQL, SSIS, SSES tools, it's still like you have to connect things to things, and that's
Yep.
gonna be less. We put stuff in, and we get a report out, and that's basically what we want. So that's
Yeah.
something that I think is very good and very strong. We work within the Microsoft ecosystem, so that's most of the stuff we have is Microsoft.
Right.
Um, and so it's good to, like, keep being in there because that means that things should be yeah, connected to each other and the English word is losing me. that they're
Integration?
integrate. Yes, integrate.
Yeah.
English is not my first language, which I
No,
maybe
it's
should
fine.
have mentioned in the
SQL
beginning.
Server Integration Services, that's what the I is in that.
Oh, is that what the I is for? I'm aware. But
No,
the integration between all the different Microsoft tools and all the different, like, even like on the client side, that just
yeah,
makes your life a lot easier, which is something I like. Um, and it also means that, like, if you can do Excel, you can also do Power BI, basically. There's
that
lots of transferable skills.
that's what got me excited about Fabric, because I have a lot of
Yeah.
small and medium customers, and I have no interest in big data. I really don't. Like, I'm not dealing with billion-row databases, but to see that, okay, if you know Power BI, you still have Power Query with data flows, you have Power Query with SQL Visual,
Mm,
and that you still have your semantic models, you still have your Power BI reports. The idea that Chris in accounting, who has finally learned Power BI, might be able to extend their skills just a wee little bit.
yes.
That I see the vision. It's just the hard part is, are we really gonna be able to get data engineers, AI engineers, data scientists, data analysts, BI reporters, and Excel users all at the same kitchen table? I don't know. That's a big ask. That's a big goal. But I like the
Yeah.
ambition.
And one of the things, but that's, I think, Power BI self-service, or like a reporting self-service thing and problem anyway. Um, it would be lovely if I could help my clients, or like my coworkers there they
Yeah.
are, if I could help them do more themselves. But I
Yes.
also have to make sure the current stuff is up and running. And there's only that many hours in a day. And that means we probably have to hire more people, but you also don't want to hire just consultants, because you need to be able to I need to be able to learn things,
Yeah.
to
Well,
be able
and
to
we charge
teach
too much
my
money anyway.
we're the government. I mean, no, that's wrong. But we do a lot with consultants, because you can't always completely educate your people to,
Yeah.
like, the
Yeah.
level you need to set stuff up. Um, but that's a challenge, basically, that we have, because you need to be on a certain level to be able to teach your coworkers.
Yeah. And the
And
problem, I mean, the whole reason the show's called Figuring Out Fabric is we're all kind of figuring this out. Like, there's not the institutional knowledge, because
no.
you were talking about some of the confusion of the prior stuff. Well, even if you tried to learn this stuff, you were learning Synapse 3 years ago, and now that's all gone. You can still buy it, but they just deprecated the
Yeah.
DP-203 cert. They deprecated the DP-500 a while back. And so for a lot of people, it's like starting fresh. It's very, very rough to be told, "Oh, yeah, this is the direction Microsoft is zigging," and then they said, "Well, we really couldn't beat Databricks and Snowflake with Synapse, so we're gonna zag now." And
Mm,
it's hard. It's hard.
yeah, exactly. Which is also part of the what you just mentioned, like, how do I know that Fabric is gonna be like Fabric is in 2 years?
Right. I I I'm I'm cautiously optimistic. It may be Stockholm syndrome. I don't know. Is that an offensive term? I don't know. I know you're not from Stockholm, but
I'm not from Stockholm, but it is offensive. Long story, don't
yeah,
use it.
no, that's
But, like,
fine. Yeah, yeah.
oh,
I'll work on my language. But uh, fair enough. Um, but you know, have I kind of just bought into it because my career depends on it now?
mm,
Right. I wrote this blog post about, does it even make sense to try and separate Power BI and Fabric? And my opinion is, we're too far gone for that to even be an option. Um, and so, like, Microsoft is moving my cheese, and I'm gonna have to learn. But the upside is, I think, because they've tied it to Power BI, which is such a successful, just massively successful product, Fabric has a far better chance of succeeding than their previous attempts.
mm,
So,
yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't be making a podcast if I didn't believe in the future of the product, but, there's gonna be some bumps in the road, for
of
sure.
course. And
Yeah.
like I said, because I work for the government, we're not allowed bumps.
Yeah,
If we
right.
bump, it's gonna be a news story.
Oh my,
And
sure, right? Yeah,
yeah, so that's something, uh, because we wanna be on, like, well, not on the edge of new innovations, but we do want to be just behind because that's also what my coworkers want, what the parliamentarians want, because they know about the new tech. They also read the news. They also have a home PC or
Right.
laptop or whatever. So you
Yeah.
do need to be just that you're just a bit behind is fine. We can need to be relatively close up, else everyone's gonna, do their own thing, which has its own risks. But
Yeah.
you also have to be careful because of the close scrutiny you're under.
Yeah. I mean, so, I mean, to wrap up, you have the challenge that you never wanna be an early adopter, but you never wanna be a late adopter, and so you're trying to
Exactly.
just be right over the adoption curve, you
Yeah.
know? Um, yeah, let's kinda wrap up. So just a couple questions. This has been great. I really appreciate your frankness, but, your people are known for that, so wouldn't expect anything less.
Thanks. Yeah.
Um, so, I don't know how much you've had to actually dig into it, but what do you think your favorite Fabric feature is likely to be of what you've
The
seen so far?
the fact that Power BI finally has version control,
Oh, yes.
that was like I might have screamed out loud when I heard that because you mentioned the issue. I did exactly the same thing, but not at
Yeah.
past, but at other conferences. That was the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
That makes me
I
so happy.
To this day, I'm a consultant. I have folders where I will name it archive. I will copy the report and then rename it with the date that I did it. And I once lost a week's worth of work
Whoa.
because my most recent revision was a week ago. We had some sort of performance bug that was just crippling performance. We couldn't figure it out. We didn't have source control, and so I had to revert to work from a week ago and just wasted a
Oh,
week's worth of work.
no.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
more cautious now, but yeah, and the fact that DevOps pipelines, like, I think you need Fabric, so you're paying money, but they just work. I mean, I've only done the proof of concept, but the fact that I can just change stuff, publish, and it gets recognized, and then I do
Yeah.
a commit, amazing. So, I'm excited for it. I just
Same.
get it out of preview. Get it get it done, Microsoft. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what's your least favorite feature so far?
Um, well, you mentioned the thing about SQL Server and how it's not that compatible yet to what we have on premise now.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's really where I come from. I like SQL Server. I like using MySQL. And I think that that's one of the things that I really hope they can improve on fast also because um, if I want to get rid of most of the stuff I have on premise, and I won't be able
Right.
to completely rebuild it all, I need to be able to reuse my stored
Right.
procedures.
Yes.
So that's a thing that I really would love if they could expand on.
Yeah, and I think they're actively working on a lot of the parity, but I mean, it's never gonna be one for one. I mean, how long have we had Azure SQL?
True.
And it's not one for one, but I know for a fact there's a lot of stuff we're working on, especially on the, like, data warehouse kinda side, the
Mm,
SQL Analytics
yeah.
endpoint side. So they are making improvements, but I agree, it's difficult whenever you have the whole, like, what, 3 decades of T-SQL breadth, and
Yeah.
then you have to go back to a subset. Kinda rough.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And
yeah.
use a lot of merge statements. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're gonna have to wait for them to yeah. Um, last question. Um, you know, social media well, here in the United States, you probably don't have this issue. Social media networks are getting banned and then unbanned, and some are
mm,
getting kinda like the bad dive bar that you really don't wanna go to anymore. Um, so, where can people find you, and is there anything you wanna promote or, you know, plug?
I think the easiest way to find me is on Blue Sky. I was an early adopter there. It's a very
It's
nice
popping
network.
off.
I
Yeah.
love how all the data people are there. You can find me at geekingthething.bluesky.social or bsky.social. I
Okay.
still have to change it to my own domain name, but I just haven't done that yet.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, and I still have a Twitter account that still exists, but don't send me messages there because I won't get them.
yeah. Yeah, 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 understood.
X, I mean, sorry.
No, no, I will continue to call it by the wrong name. I refuse. It sounds like something a 13-year-old made up. I'm not doing it. No.
I
Um,
mean,
but anyway,
the other thing, I have a website, if then else.com. So it's else with just my name and not the last
that's
E.
that's beautiful. That is a work of art. I applaud.
Thank you so much. I got it
Yeah,
from a very dear friend. She gifted me the domain name at some point.
that was amazing.
And I try to blog there, not just about tech or data. Also, I do a lot of stuff on like community, on LGBTQIA issues, and on like consent and code of conduct. So there's stuff on that on there. But I'm still building it out, and it slowly it'll get better.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Els. This has been great.